Thank you for joining Probably My Last Login and Wining247.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another podcast. Quite the crazy weekend for me. I know it sounded like PML, you had a couple, you did a show or something like that?
Yeah, I was up at like 8 in the morning my time today after being out till about 5 in the morning the day before to break down the NBA slate, which apparently it looks like I had some pretty decent analysis, so that's good. Hopefully some people won some money.
Yeah, Kink. Yeah. You always got your good analysis, man. When you do your work, you put it into it. You got that, you got the stats behind you, backing you up. If you want to explain kind of what we're going to be doing today, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so for I feel like most of the people probably watching this one watched the last one that we did. Um, So the focus here is not to break down the entire slate. This is not a, um, you know, top plays of the slate podcast. There's a million of those. I'm sure there'll be a morning grind and all that stuff up. So we're not here for that. Instead, we want to do another little tutorial type thing where we walk through fan graphs so that you can learn how to I guess do the deeper analysis and the research yourself, because you can make quite a lot of money if you can pick up, um, I guess, some of those really deep predictive analytics and stuff like that that people aren't on, and get the random guy who's just you know on the verge of an explosion, or just a pitcher that happens to be just really strangely in just an amazing matchup. Um, but today, um,
Yeah, I like where you're going with today. Obviously you're going to tell them in a second, but, basically breaking down the steal percentage of guys or, the stealing aspect of it and kind of how to look into that type of stuff.
yeah, so definitely one of the more underrated things is steals, in fantasy in fantasy baseball, because um, by the way, just to let you guys know, we're not just doing steals. We're also going to break down a couple of very interesting pitchers. But first, I wanted to do this because a lot of people have asked me, well, how the hell do we do? How do we figure that out? Um, so, uh, yeah, most of the time, most people are so focused, right? They want the ISOs and the WOBAs and the hard hit percentage and stuff like that. Um, but that's not the only place you can get fantasy points. Get it from steals. So this is basically the general overview on how to check the steal upside, the steal matchup. Now, unfortunately, um, it's not always easy if you haven't been playing very long to identify players that steal, which is crazy to think about, because you pick it up pretty quick, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
but looking through the slate, you know what I mean? Like, if you had no idea, I mean, lots of people, I imagine, they don't even watch baseball, right? So they don't know if like Gregory Polanco is like a 300-pound, slugger, right? He's in the four hole, maybe he's some big old fat ass. Like most people playing, like, I guarantee they probably don't even know what Gregory Polanco looks like. Um, but we know what Kevin Kiermaier looks like, because he's so handsome.
I do love me some Polanco, so I think you got. I assume people know Polanco, but I know more about Polanco than I do about Kiermaier. But I guess he's your boy. It sounds like.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the gold, like, back to back? I mean, I don't know exactly how many years he has it, but like the best defensive center fielder in the entire league,
I
like,
just
for
got to.
years.
I just got to give you a hard time.
Okay. Yeah. So when I'm going through the slate, right? Usually I can look, and I'll be looking through it, and we just know, right? We know some of the general ones. Like, we'll look and be like, okay, Corey Dickerson probably doesn't steal a lot. Kiermaier is going to steal whenever he can. and looking through it like, okay, Derek Norris steals a random bag. Okay, Tim Beckham steals. But that's something that you're just going to have to look up on your own, right? So just go and if you're curious, right? I mean, you don't even need to go to Fangraphs. Like any old website will tell you what their stealing rate is. But again, this is just something that you're just going to have to figure out. And you really, it happens. No, thanks. It's usually something that comes just by you roster a guy like randomly, and then they'll steal a bag, and then you'll be like, oh, okay. And then like over the course of a season, you'll have played him once or twice, and he's still stealing bags. Okay, so we're on his main page. So again, fangraphs.com. Kevin Kiermaier, right? This really handsome fellow right here with those blue eyes.
You're scaring me, but continue.
Yeah, we come down and we look at his numbers, right? So 2016, how many games did he play? 105. How many bags did he swipe? 21. 20 is generally a high number. You can't always just go by raw steal numbers because obviously it depends on like how often they even get on base. But you know, that's a good number. 1 out of every 5 games or so, he's swiping a bag, and we see that this season, right? 20-ish games, 4 bags swiped. He's on that pace. That's good.
That'd be like more like 1 out of like 8 games, but I hear you.
Right. And some pitchers and scenarios are so bad that sometimes you can even extend a little bit. Like, okay, maybe he doesn't swipe, 20% of his games. He's not swiping a bag, but maybe someone's so bad we're expecting to swipe more. But either way, again, this is just something that you're going to have to work through. If you don't watch any of the games and you have no idea who these people are, you're not going to know, right? Who's stealing bases. So just kind of click through random players' names and just look and see if they've stolen bases, and you'll get a feel for it. But anyway, so it stood out to me because this is a particular matchup that could be good for him in terms of steal upside. So we see on the mound, who you have Ubaldo Jimenez on the mound, yeah?
Yes. Yep.
What's like the spreads, totals, and stuff of this game?
Yeah, I had them pulled up. If you wanna, I gotta just search through it.
Yeah, why not?
I'll pull it up in a second.
Welcome back, Rudy Gobert, you bastard.
Look at Joe Johnson. I don't know if you've seen that, but
God damn it, Joe.
computer's very slow today. Yeah, so tomorrow we got Baltimore. I don't know, my computer's freaking out. You could take it away and keep talking. I'll get it in a second.
Yeah, so Baltimore Rays. Point is, I saw Ubaldo Jimenez. You want to pronounce it correctly. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And it stood out to me as like, oh, okay, like this could be a good teaching moment for the class. So when looking for steal upside, and again, you'll eventually develop a sense for it once you've seen 1 or 2 or 3 pitcher and catcher matchups. But generally speaking, there are 2 sides. There are 2 different angles, right, for steal upside to appear. Oftentimes, it comes from the pitcher. They have a very, very long release or some kind of tell. Basically, some pitchers, batters have more time to figure out whether or not they're actually going to throw a pitch, right? The more time that a pitcher is telegraphing to a batter, or a base runner now, of course, that they're not actually going to throw a pitch, then they can, run. They can
Yeah.
run sooner. They can run sooner.
Also, some with the shoulder too, right? Watching if it drops or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't get too crazy into what the tells and stuff like that are unless they're very prevalent. But yeah. And then on the other end, it's the catcher, right? A lot of catchers, especially ones that have been in the game a little bit too long, who are still great pitch framers and all that stuff, right? They just have a weak arm. They develop the inability to just sort of launch a ball as hard as they can, or just for whatever reason, right? So you have both ends of it. Now, obviously, the best side would be to have both. Have a pitcher who is awful, have a catcher who's awful. But that doesn't happen necessarily all that often. But if either of them are really bad, then I become comfortable specifically targeting it as a potential steal matchup. So let's go into it. Chris Archer pitching. I feel
I
like
got it at a 8.5 total, and the favorite is looks like it's Tampa Bay.
interesting. Seems pretty low considering there's a nice park. Right. So I would imagine that Beef Wellington Castillo will probably catch. I feel like they want him to be the main catcher. They're not platooning him and Caleb. So those are the two guys that we'll look at. So the first thing that I do is I want to look at the pitcher because, again, it's not fully determinative. The pitcher could be decent at holding runners, but if the catcher is so bad, it doesn't really matter. But still, there are occasionally pitchers that are so bad that that undeniably it's just a spot of weakness that needs to be attacked. So we are on the Fangraphs page. I have typed in Ubadal Jimenez, and we want to go down to, I believe it's fielding. We want to go to. We pop down, we click, boop, brings us right down to fielding. Now, most of these numbers you really don't need to know any. I don't know what this DP, STFP thing is. The important thing is we want to know, here are the years, recent years. We want to know the innings pitched, and here are the stolen bases, right? Stolen bases allowed. Generally speaking, a pitcher is going to pitch somewhere between 30 and 35 games in the season, something like that.
Yeah.
In terms of innings pitched, right? It's anywhere between, I don't know, like 120 to 200, 220, something like that, 250.
Yeah, basically the way I see it is probably 6 innings on average, per game. You would assume.
Yeah, and I mean the more elite pitchers, like a
Yeah.
guy like Chris Sale or someone's going to average closer to 7, probably. Last season he probably pitched, I think, almost exactly 7. But so the number that in my mind that I'm looking for is usually 15. If you see 15 or above, that is kind of like an indicator of like, oh, maybe this guy gives up a lot of bases. These numbers are not like, this is not a perfect system. This is not somebody that was actually like at the game, just sitting there, just like, okay, it looks like he gave up a bag, so let's put it down on the old checkbox. Now it's an imperfect system and stuff like that. So I don't want to make too high of a threshold. So 15 is a number that stands out. Decent pitchers usually don't give up that much. Bad ones give up 15 or more. So we go on here, right, and we see 26. And we're like, wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that is. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Again,
getting worse too. Well, he had 32. It seems
yeah.
like if you look at the last 3 years,
And yeah, and a lot of that has to do with people realizing it, right? The more and more with analytics becoming more prevalent in MLB, it's just more clubs are realizing it. But either and 22, 26, you're like, oh, he's kind of a jump. But then you look, it's like, holy crap, he pitched 184 innings that one and only gave up 22. He only pitched 142 that year, gave up 26.
wow.
He only pitched 3 games so far this season. He already has 4. He's more than 1 a game. Yeah. So these numbers, the raw stolen base numbers, I always look at first just to kind of tip it off. But there is this handy dandy stat. If you go one further down, we have fielding, and then we have we have advanced fielding. And advanced fielding, you see this RSB, which is stolen bases runs saved above average, blah 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 blah. Basically, it creates some kind of plus minus type thing, and it cuts through the these innings pitched and stuff, because you always want to look at like your mind always wants to force you to look at the games, right? Pitch 29 games, gave up 26 stolen bags, but obviously it's more about the innings. So it kind of gets more into that down here. Now, zero, right? A zero RSB, right here. So in 2009, he had a zero RSB. So let's look at 2009 real quick. 2009, right? Pitched 33 games, only gave up 15 bags, right? So that was kind of that number that I just threw out there. Was that 15 number mark?
Yeah,
which
that's a
kind
lot of innings too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually pretty decent for a little bit there. But yeah, so you see a zero RSB, so that kind of and I didn't plan that, but that kind of is in my mind. Like you see the 0 and you see the 15, like that's in my mind. It's like, okay, it's not necessarily the most plus matchup. So it's like a guy that can steal, like a Billy Hamilton who's going to steal, if he has a decent hitting here, he can steal 50 bases. Will run probably wild on that guy, maybe. But there's nothing special about the matchup. Once you get into like even -1, then it's like, okay, things are not going well. -2, it's like, wow, things are really not going well. -3 and above, it's just like, man, this guy's awful. Just pure awfulness. So we look at that and we're just like, okay, like dude is straight awful. Again, he's 16 innings, right? 3 games, already given up 4 stolen bags. Everybody knows that you can steal on Ubaldo. And I'm guessing that this handsome devil will know too. Now, one last thing is a little extra that you can check is with Ubaldo, he's not that great. He's not that great of a pitcher, so not even thinking it a lot of the time. But you also still should check, and guys like Syndergaard, who was giving up just an insane amount of stolen bases, you still want to like check the splits to see it. And this is the few times that I use standard stats, but like what's the on base percentage, right? Kevin Kiermaier being a lefty, what's like the on base percentage of lefties against Ubaldo? And we're looking for pretty much like anything above this 3.33, right? 1/3 of the time they're getting on base. Last
That's
season,
pretty, yeah.
woo, yeah. So you're telling me, right? He's gonna at least get 2 at bats against Ubaldo, at least, right?
At least I would, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and if he doesn't, it's because like he's hitting homers. So right, but so he's gonna get on base that amount of time. So we're like, oh shit. So he has a good chance of getting on base and stealing on him. Now, if you look at the righties, right, it's not that big of a deal either. It's not that big of a deal either. But we're not really looking at any of the righties necessarily right now. Now for the catcher, which is the other component, right? So Ubaldo has his delivery and everything that he does is this very long, protracted shtick. So that is why people can get the jump on him so much. By the time like he's starting to wind up, like it's such a big ordeal that guys are like halfway to second by the time he's done. Okay, so we're going to Wellington Castillo. The fields are the same, right? We're going back down to fielding. We're looking at his stolen bases. We're saying, okay, how many stolen bases did you give up? With catchers and stuff like that, like I don't use career or historical numbers and stuff like that because they can degrade pretty quick because it's such a taxing position. So we see, and this is a column that you normally don't see on the catchers, this caught stealing, because any pitcher that's usually getting credited with giving up the steal, they have no opportunity to catch them stealing. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Because they've thrown the ball and the guy's running, so they can't use the force. So for catchers, generally I go by a ratio. Now, if for some reason these stolen base totals like super low, then even if the ratio is good, I'll be like, that's kind of weird. But generally speaking, I want to look at a ratio. I'm looking for like a 2-to-1 ratio. I think is like the lower end of, okay, those guys not maybe the best. So we see 40, we see 24 last season. It's like, okay, he's giving up 2 stolen bases per guys that he's throwing out. right? The year before it was 1-3. This year, or I'm sorry, it was 3-1. This year it's 3-1. Again, so far, and again, limited sample size, but 12 games he started, and he's allowed 9 stolen bases, 3. You can go back to that RSB stat again. It works just the same as it did for the pitchers. And again, right, positive numbers good. Look at this, man. In 2014, he was probably like a top 6, 7 catcher at preventing stolen bases, according to this metric. And I mean, shit, you look at 2014, you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, gave up 57 bags. Yeah, but throughout 28, like, it was like, is it really worth it? But anyway, getting back down here.
I mean, everything you said about the pitcher too, I feel like he's just grading out to be a pretty great play.
Yeah, it's just always want to hit it from multiple angles to get the best situation. The pitcher, I think, is more important a lot of the time, or at least can override the other thing, because it doesn't matter if Wellington Castillo is going to rocket this ball back. He's still got to get the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time he gets the ball, like, how far is that runner gone? But as we're looking, we see that Castillo did give up a good amount of stolen bases. We see that last season, technically, he had a positive grade. And again, that's probably because he was better than that 2-to-1 ratio. But still, he's given up a lot of bases. Anything over, I don't know, I want to say like 35, 36, 40 is probably closer to that number for a full season. But 67, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we do see that he's grading out with a -1 this season, which is what we'd expect with that 3-to-1 ratio. So we put it all together. We see that this handsome devil. We see that Ubaldo, right? We know that he's not always the best pitcher, and we know that he's going to give up a high on base percentage against a guy like Kevin Kiermaier. I didn't pull up Kiermaier's on base percentage against righties, but I would guess that it's at least league average. That's why he bats so high.
Yeah, I mean,
we know that he could run on him.
Yeah, especially batting, most of the time, where he's batting, that's huge. And like you said, he's going to minimum get 2 at-bats against them. And, definitely the steals are just how much you get for steals. And then the next guy you were going to break down was the obvious one, right?
I think we're going to skip over. I think I'm going to skip over him. How about this? For your guys' homework assignment tomorrow, go look up Jet Bandy. Will almost definitely catch, I would think, tomorrow with the lefty Amir Garrett. For your homework tomorrow, right? Tell me how good of a stealing matchup, and I'm not telegraphing if it is good or if it is bad. Look up this stealing matchup between Matt Garza and Jet Bandy, that duo, and tell me if Billy Hamilton is likely to steal a bunch of bases. Again, remember, you're looking at the Garza amount of bases that he's giving up, amount of stolen bases he's giving up, the amount of stolen bases that Bandy's giving up, and again, the ratio, not just the total number, because if he pitched like a bajillion innings, which he didn't, but if he had, right, you don't want to get led astray by that. And then again, how often is he going to let a hitter like Billy Hamilton on the bags, on the base paths? He's a switch hitter, and you can look up his numbers on the left and right side and see if maybe it's better that he's facing a righty, maybe it's worse. Who knows? Moving on. What did you have in mind?
Utah actually ended up winning that game with no Gordon Hayward. Thought I'd just throw that out there. Nice win. You want to break down some pitchers?
Yeah,
let's start. You want to start with our boy Jason Viagra?
Ooh, guess what? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You ready for this? You ready for this? Hold on. Oh, I don't have the trumpet sound anymore. Pretend there was a trumpet sound. Your boy just took down his first GPP. Real tiny one, though.
Hey, no way it's your first.
Of the season? Like taking a one down with these deep. I mean, it was a small one.
How many people were in it?
2,900. Yeah.
That's not bad. Hey, you're
the afternoon $4, bro. Come on.
What's it to first? 2,000? 3,000?
Nah, dude. They've been effing with the payout structure, so it's 1,000, even though it's a It's 1,000, even though it was a what is it?
Hey, that's not too bad of an ROI. So I think you're.
Oh, no, it was a normal payout structure. I'm sorry, I thought it was bigger. Yeah, it was a 10K, 1K to first. Yeah, your boy did it, son.
Hey, congrats, my man. All right. Well, now time to break down some pictures for him. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's break down some pictures.
Celebrate with some pitching breakdown.
Yeah, celebrate good times. Jam on. So, Jack brought up to me via text message over multiple slates. FF this, what's up with these guys? Something. Directed at both of these out of nowhere. Well, okay, maybe not completely out of nowhere, depending on how close you've been following baseball, but out of nowhere lefties with Amir Garrett and Jason Vargas, who have been battling for like this, like, whew, man, they have been doing some stuff. So we thought, hey, why don't we do a little thing where we go through those guys and see if there's any reason why it's unsustainable, or if it is sustainable. Are they getting lucky, right?
Yeah. That's tough, man. You always hate to do that, but hey, with the stats we'll break into, we'll see. I think one of them. I just would be surprised if two of these guys out of nowhere are just, studs. I think we'll find some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I really wanted to find a song or something or some kind of clip to play right there, and I couldn't think of anything. And right when I said that, "Up All Night to Get Lucky" popped into my mind. I was like, I should have known.
Well, we don't want you to get blocked on YouTube. You never know if that would happen.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Okay, so let's go with the first, Amir Garrett, because I've actually gone through Jason Vargas super extensively, and I did a whole write-up in the chat, so I can go through him very, very quickly. So we look at Amir Garrett, right? Round 22, pick 24. The scouts basically graded, said like he was an okay fastball slider guy. Future value 45, that means slightly below average. So they basically were saying like, okay, like he can play some baseballs, I guess. And I'm going real fast just to explain to you why. At least just from a quick glance, you're just like, okay, what's the deal with this guy? Right, velocity like not that high, right? He's a lefty, so they get artificial bumps. But in his pitch change, he's throwing a force. He's throwing a, it looks like a generic four-seam fastball. Nothing crazy. Curve and a changeup. Like the three, like welcome to baseball. If you want to be a pitcher, you got to throw a fastball. Now it helps if you have some kind of breaking ball. Okay, a curve. Yep, that works for you. You're a lefty, whatever. It doesn't matter. And yeah, you need to be able to not get shelled by righties. Okay, so you learn to change it. That's fine. So again, nothing crazy standing out. We're not seeing like some like crazy pitch mix. We're not seeing a insane high velocity. Doesn't have a knuckle curve. He doesn't have any of these weird pitches. But as we keep scrolling, we see these pitch values. Not going to go into a million different ways about what the hell this is, but positive numbers are good. And anything positive is good, but anything like above 1 is pretty good. Anything above like 5 is really good.
He likes that slider.
Yeah. The thing is, that's crazy that two different systems seem to be thinking one system thinks he's throwing a slider and the other is like, okay, so that is something that kind of stands out right away. If the pitch tracking systems, if these two pitch tracking systems can't tell if he's throwing a slider or a curve, well, then that kind of stands out, because it's like, oh shit, is there so much movement on this pitch? Like, is he throwing some kind of slider or curve that has so much movement that it's being picked up incorrectly by the different tracking systems? So you kind of log that in your mind. And again, yeah, like that's pretty high. These are pretty high numbers.
Yeah, bizarre.
So going down, so we get to swinging strike percentage. And again, I think we talked about the swinging strike percentage of strikes that were swung at and missed. right? So when a player logs a strike, how many times was it a swing and miss? And the baseline, I would say, for like really good, like pretty decently good, is 10%.
Oh, so that's swinging strike in general. That's not like swinging strikeout.
No. Yeah, it's not whiff percentage. It's not strike. Yeah, it's not like a strikeout percentage. It's just they've recorded a strike. The stat system looks and says, okay, did they swing? Yes. Did they miss? Yes. How often does that happen?
Gotcha.
12.9% of the time. Now again, 10% is decently high. That's where anybody at 10 or above are guys that we generally would consider. Like a 10% swinging strike percentage usually pans out to somewhere between like a 20% ish K percentage, depending on the handedness. We also a lot of times like to look, especially for a young pitcher, right? His first major league year, we look for this F strike, and that's the amount of times that he's getting a strike on the very first pitch. He throws a pitch, that first pitch to a batter. How often is it a strike? 60% is the beginning threshold of like above average. 66% is really freaking high.
Yeah, that's what I was. I would assume that kind of that number right there. That's actually really good to start that count out like that.
Yeah, so let's go to another popular lefty, and Clayton Kershaw, just real quick, just to take a look at his numbers, because I know you guys don't have a good sense of things on right. So far this season, we'll just blank it out this season because that's not, you know. So this is the best pitcher in all of baseball. Best. 15% swinging strike percentage. My God, even some hard throwing relievers aren't that good. But I mean, Kershaw was pretty good in 2013, right?
Yeah.
He had an 11% swinging strike percentage and a 65% F strike. He's been really working a lot on both of those things. He really wanted to focus on getting those first pitch strikes, and like he's just obviously been developing nicely. But either way, 2013, Kershaw was still pretty damn good, and he had a 65 and an 11. Again, we're working with Amir Garrett, who so far is working with a 66 and a 13%, better than Clayton Kershaw by a good margin that season. But it's really early, so is it real or is it fake? And that's when we start to dig into the numbers. So we go to that splits tool that we had talked about before. We'll go a little standard, right?
How many games has he actually pitched? Did you say that?
He's pitched 20 innings.
Okay.
But that's only, if we like wanted to, Amir Garrett, I like baseball. Right? If you wanted to pull it up and like look, his minors career was 500 innings, had almost a 3 ERA. Did he play in the PCL at all? No. But either way, look at this. So look at this. Look at these by years, right? High, right? But 2014 already, he's already dipping to 3.6. 2015, he's in single A, 2.4, goes back up to triple A, 3.4. Okay, they're like, let's get you back down to double A. Then I think he must switch teams or something. 2.55, so pretty elite on like a very large sample. 144, like that's ridiculous. At the I don't know what level that is, but whatever. He gets to Cincy. They give him 20 innings in the majors.
Killing it.
And he's killing it. But is he going to continue to kill it? So let's take a quick look. Let's look at the splits, just the very basic WOBA splits. A lot of times why I do this is there's sometimes that guys like this are like incredibly good against a certain handedness of pitcher or a certain handedness of hitter. And it just so happens that they faced a lot of those guys and they've gotten lucky, right? So we go to the splits tool, right? So you type in their name, go there, they have the bar, splits tool. We have it set to standard. He's only pitched 1 year, so we don't even have to go through all this data, right? 230 WOBA, incredibly elite. If that were a whole season, that would be one of the best ever, probably, both hands. So he's a lefty, right? So the first thing is We're going to click lefty. We're going to expect a good number, right? But we're going to click it anyway. 0.088.
Wow.
And again, we'll take a quick look. So he's pitched 20 innings, and only 3 of them against lefties. And he's it looks like one person has gotten a hit.
Yeah,
okay.
pretty small sample size.
Super small set. That's the whole point, though. That's why we're digging, because we want to know early. We want to know now if we can. If there's something that can tip us off, right? We want to know now before it's too late. We look against righties, 16 innings, even better. Still at 252 Woba, pretty good, right? Strike a spot. Okay, like he's given up a run. He's given up a home run. He's given up 4 runs. Like that's expected. This 2.16 ERA again. He would be Cy Young with that total. So let's get to the advanced stuff. I'm gonna leave it on righties. We'll leave it on righties so far. Okay, we're looking. We're going along. Again, we've talked about the strikeout numbers. 25 and above is considered like the elite level, and that's kind of a direct translation, or it should be anyway, from that swinging strike number. But you notice so whip, right? Walks plus hits in an inning pitched. It's below 1. So what do you think? What do you think of these walk numbers? What do you think of this BBs?
Yeah, I mean, what would be kind of league average for those?
I generally don't follow like league average, but I do follow I do try to look at like what's decent, like what's a decent number. 2 and below is like
Okay.
yeah,
2.
2 and below is pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, everything's pointing to the right direction for him, man. He looks
Right. I mean, he's young, so like we're expecting like for a guy like okay, he's getting lucky, right? We'd kind of even almost expect like oh, he's probably just walking a lot of guys, maybe. Maybe he's like the reason why he's getting so many strikeouts is because guys that he can't strike out, they're not like popping it up and getting out. They're getting on base, and then he'll strike out the next guy. And that's not good because not all those guys will just single. Okay, so we got the righties and 25 again percent. Pretty good. Let's look at the lefties. Yeah, not real. Obviously not real, right? This negative FIP. That means that this projection system is saying that, well, it's saying he has a 0 ERA, but what he really should have is a minus 0.45 ERA.
wow.
Yeah.
He's gonna face a couple lefties tomorrow. Like 3, I think, 2.
I would be surprised if they put anyone in there other than like Chris Davis probably, or not Chris Davis.
Thames.
Yeah, I was on the wrong game. Yeah, Thames. They'll probably leave Shaw in. But that would be about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, not too important yet. We're still looking. Now, one thing that we like to look at in terms of luck factor. So far, it's just like, okay, he's not walking a lot of guys. He has high strikeout numbers. He's not giving up a lot of home runs. But again, it's just super low sample size. So that's the whole point of why we're doing this. So the next number we look at is, okay, we want to see what his BABIP is, right? His balls, what is it? It's batting average of balls allowed into play, which means the bat makes contact with the ball and it stays in fair territory. How often is that guy getting on base? So for lefties so far, it's at 200. And generally speaking, elite pitchers do have low BABIP numbers, right? Because they're so good, especially elite strikeout pitchers, because they don't allow the ball on the plate. People aren't hitting the damn ball. But 200 is like super low. But I mean, if he's been striking out 50% of people, then that explains that. But we also aren't going to expect him to strike out 50%. So let's take a look at the righties, where it was a lower K percentage. So we'd expect it probably to be, even if he was like pretty elite, we'd expect it to be closer to like 280 maybe. So go to righties. Well, it's almost exactly 280. So far so good. So far so good. He got quote unquote lucky against lefties because he just happened to strike them out. But it's not like he's so lucky so far based on the underlying numbers and the swinging strike and stuff like that. That it's just impossible. That he's just good, right?
Yeah.
So far, just looks good. So let's get to the batted ball data. So we're gonna look here is, right? We want to see if maybe balls that maybe are getting barreled or should be home runs or something like that, right? Or just they're staying in the park, so it's hiding the stats. He's striking out 2-3 guys, and then one guy's like launching one into outfield, but it just lands short. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So we've talked about this hard hit percentage. Anything below 30% is good. Anything 20% and below is like elite, like best in the league. Wow, you know, that's super low.
Yeah.
One thing that did kind of stand out is this medium contact is like is a little higher than you'd expect. Again, this is versus lefties. I switched over to the batted ball tab. I handed a set to lefties. Medium's a little high, right? So the threshold between these two things, we don't even know. I don't know the formula. I don't think they've released it. But right, if for whatever reason it was so borderline that in the next 20 innings, right, it's going to turn into 50% medium, 30% hard, then, you know, it looks less good. All right, but, you know, whatever, getting over here to the fly balls and ground balls. 80% ground balls. Again, I think we might have covered, I might have covered Clayton Richard in chat from the Padres. He's the only guy in the league that has actually had a sustainable, like, 70% ground ball rate to lefties for over a year.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. Would it be smart to kind of break down his minor league numbers, or do you not think they correlate?
Well, I mean, they tend to correlate, and the thing is, I'd have to go dig through the sites again. But advanced statistics for minor leaguers are hard to come by. And I forget the site that does it. Like the closest thing I have is splits. But yeah, you're right. Usually I do check the splits. But for a guy like Amir Garrett, I know that his splits against lefties are probably going to be like amazingly elite, right? So let's just look at his AA numbers from 2016 just to get a taste of it, right? So versus righties, had a 1.82 ERA and a 1.53 ERA. So they immediately bumped him up to AAA. And, you know, his numbers popped up temporarily, probably while he was facing better batters and stuff and getting a hang of it. But still, like, not bad, right? And again, still lower versus lefties.
Yeah.
In 11 innings, right? 2 home runs and 56. So not a lot, not necessarily a ton of home runs to either side. But yeah, you know what? That does actually correlate, right, to what we've seen. Even though
like you said, pretty darn elite.
Yeah, and again, like looking at those numbers, and thank you, Jack, for reminding me that yes, there is more data out there. But yeah, we know that he's not. Even though he is worse against righties, right? He gave up less home runs per inning to them, right? And that kind of sings true still with the data that he's only given up so far that 0.5 home runs per nine. Again, super small sample size, but again, we're digging through every little layer of anything to see if there's anything that is like screaming out to us, wow, this dude's going to get shelled next game. So finally, we'll go to the right-handedness, and here's where the numbers start to look kind of normal for a guy that's just like pretty good, but like,
yeah, that's a little more down to earth type number.
Yeah, not elite numbers. This 35 by 35 hard hit to fly ball rate is something that always stands out as okay, this is the guy that we can get some home runs off this guy maybe from the right side. Now we counterbalance it again with and when we did the breakdown of Estrada with the infield fly ball percentage, we want to make sure that that's not like super high. So it's like, oh, fly ball percentage, 36%. That's pretty, you know, it's decently high. Oh, but it's like a 17% infield fly ball percentage. So it's kind of a fake news. But 6% is pretty low, pretty low. So that means that this 36% is pretty true. These fly balls are going into outfield. They're not staying infield. They're not little pop-ups. And this is kind of the number, right, that sings of regression.
Yeah, definitely.
Is if he's giving up 36% of the time that players are making contact with the ball, we know that he's only striking out 25% of righties. So 75% of them are either walking or making contact. So some amount of them making contact. If they're going to make contact, and 36% of the time it's going to be hard hit, and the other 36% of the time it's going to be in the air, right? This
Yep.
number is about almost ×3 too low. It should be probably closer, or not ×3, sorry, closer to ×2, depending on his style of pitching.
So
So,
right around 12-ish, you're saying?
yeah, probably 12 to 15%, I'd say. And that's what XFIP does. I hate getting into XFIP, but XFIP adjusts that number to apply a standard home run to fly ball ratio. So that's why the FIP says, 2.46, best in the league. But XFIP says, well, if those fly ball numbers start translating into normalized home runs, right, then he's probably going to have closer to a 3.23 ERA.
Yeah.
But that's really just a lot of nitpicking, because all that still means is, like, dude's really good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially against the Brewers, man. I mean, they've been hot though. I just feel like I think I'm gonna have a little hedge too with the Brewers, as a stack, because you've got to think. How you think this pitcher will be chalky tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know if people want to. I really don't know if people want to play him or not.
Yeah, if they want to take the chance yet.
Yeah, I mean, on DraftKings, definitely will. But man, I don't know. I don't know. The Reds and stuff, like, everybody likes to stack against the Reds, and we might be one game away from people jumping on the bandwagon. One thing to check though, and we always like to check these numbers, the verses, right? So they are facing the Brewers, right? So we take a quick look. We pull up our leaders that we've talked about before. Go to the batting leaders, 2017 versus lefties. Or I'm sorry, we'll go first to team stats. We want to know about all the Brewers. The Brewers have had a pretty standard lineup. They've really only changed the catcher, and they're not like platooning a ton of guys. They'll put Kirk Neuenhuis in versus lefties. I'm sorry, versus righties. But it's not crazy. They're
Yeah.
keeping it standard, and if it is different, then it's based on the handedness. So if we set it to lefties, then it should be right.
Yeah, I would agree. Like you said, they don't really have too much variance in their lineup. Usually, kind of one or two batter type difference type thing.
Yeah, usually just the catcher and then like an outfielder. So again, I went to leaders. I went to batting leaders 2017 versus lefties, because Amir is a lefty. We'll go to advanced. And let's take a quick look. Like, let's see who strikes out the most against lefties. The reason I go to this and stuff is because I always like to put numbers in context. I don't like to set a specific number and be like, okay, 20+% and I'm in, right? I still do like to see it in context. Like, who Ks the most against lefties, and who are they facing tomorrow?
They are facing the Brewers. Are you saying?
Okay.
Or
Yeah. Okay. So they're facing the Brewers. Whoa. So the Brewers so far have K'd the most against lefties, more than anybody in the league.
that's even well, there you go. Now that's really pointing his way.
Yeah. Now again, and we've talked about the Brewers all season for this same
Is
purpose.
Lance Lynn from the Cardinals? Is he a lefty?
Yes, he might have some reverse splits though.
I was at that game and he mowed him down.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I did have him in a couple stacks though.
Yeah, good. But kind of the joke that we've had with the Brewers is like, it's like fucking death, because they're gonna be bad or they'll be good. So let's WRC plus weighted runs created plus versus lefties, right? So basically offensive production. Who are the best in the league? Well, they strike out 30%, but they're also the third best in the league against lefties. So if he's not missing those bats, he could be in some big trouble. Villar, Braun, Thames has been hitting lefties fine. Domingo Santana hits lefties better. Or, Bandy hits lefties way better for power, at least. Lots of guys that strike out. But yeah, proceed with caution. Wouldn't hate you for playing him, or even taking a Braun, maybe throwing Thames or someone, although it really looks like Amir can just destroy some lefties. But that's another fun homework assignment is go try and figure out, and you're probably not going to be able to, but might as well try and figure out VR. He's a guy that steals a lot of bags, stole like 40 bags last season.
Yeah, no, that's another good point. You know, kind of when we're breaking that in, I think he's a guy to definitely look at.
Yeah, homework assignment number 2. Billy Hamilton on one side versus Garza. I'm sorry. Yeah, wait. Getting this all mixed up. No, I got that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Billy Hamilton facing Garza with Bandy catching. Well, why don't also look up VR versus Amir Garrett with I would think Barnhart would probably catch again.
I'd go with Barnhart too. Yeah. Well, let's get into the next picture that we were going to break down, and that is
Let's do that one quickly. I'm getting a little sleepy, and I think we've kind of made a pretty good point so far.
No,
So
definitely.
Jason Vargas, right? So Jason Vargas is a guy that everybody is just like, what the hell is going on with this guy? Because he's mowing everybody all the F the way down. And you look at like career totals and stuff. So we're on his main page, Jason Vargas season stats, right? I always laugh because these baseball touts and whatnot, they like always try to get so crazy sometimes with the advanced stats. It's XFIP and a WAR and all that stuff. Those are predictive stats, right? They're trying to look to the future sometimes. So I laugh because ERA is a good stat. It's a very good stat, right? You just need enough. You just need a good amount of innings. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
When he's like 50 innings into the season, that's when we're looking at XFIP. Like, okay, is he going to be able to continue this? But if he threw 200 innings, right? Who gives a F what his XFIP is, right? Like that's a decent sample size. But either way, so scrolling down, right, we're looking at his majors numbers. So like 4.9, not very good. These are all fairly low innings. This was fairly low. I imagine he started. So for the Mariners, like, oh, he had a pretty decent year. Had that nice big park. Oh, not good. Oh, decent, right? Gets shelled in AAA. Comes the Angels, still getting shelled in a nice park. Goes to the Royals. Oh, not bad. I forget what happened. He got hurt or something, right?
Yeah. I think he
So,
did.
yeah, I feel like something happened. So he might have came back late 2015 to pitch out of the bullpen or something like that. And then he came back in 2016, last season, and just beat the ass out of everybody. And then he came back this season, he's beating the ass out of everybody. So it's like, what the hell? So kind of unlike Amir, where we're going through like his minor league numbers, and we can kind of be like, oh, I can see this or whatever. But you can't really tell. Like a guy that's a younger guy that's like developing and stuff like that. Like he could just get better, right? He could figure a couple things out. So for the older guys, we have all this data. And we're looking through, right? And we're like, okay, here are the pitches that he throws. And again, it's 2000. It's when he gets to the Royals. He's there for a little bit. 2015, right? And then it was that next year, that 2016, 2017. So this is kind of the timeline we're really probably focused on. We want to see what's happening here. And looking real quick, there's nothing different, really. Everything looks the same. But, this pitch type model, like it's not as advanced. Maybe we'll scroll down and we'll go to the pitch effects one. So we're looking, and well, I'll be damned. The first year that he gets to the Royals, for some reason, it's starting to think that he is no longer throwing this curveball, and instead he's throwing a knuckle curve, it says. Okay. Interesting. Huh. Well, next season, 2015, 14.5%, 14.4, 14.5. So we're kind of following these numbers like consistent. Oh, wait, there's a whole new column over here, right? Still got the changeup. Need a good changeup if you're a lefty. You need to strike out those righties. And we're following again this season. And we're looking and following along, and whoa, his two-seamer is doubled magically the knuckles. So you're telling me like there's a possibility that he is throwing a completely new pitch, right? And now he's also throwing more two-seamers, which have a lot more movement on them and maybe could be more a danger. So it's like, okay, just looking at his pitch mix, there's like a little bit of a, oh, maybe there is something going on. So like we scroll down, we look at his velocity, like that's a fastball, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a changeup. That is an 86 average, 86 mile an hour fast. I'm putting my fingers up. Fastball that he's throwing. But it's not like his velocity is like incredibly down, right? So somehow he made it into the majors, right? And we saw that he actually had a couple of years prior to this, like some decent success, and he's never thrown it hard. So okay, maybe that's just part of his game. Maybe he's like a deceptive pitcher or something. So we go down. I remember those pitching values, and I was like, okay, like you want the positive numbers, right? Like a good number is anything over 1 pretty much is good for some of this. So we look, right? Fastball, when he first gets the Royals, fastball, not so good. Curveball is grading out good. Changeup is pretty damn good with the changeup. Curveball is not grading out all that well. 2015, right? 2015 again was when we see that this number jumped, right? The system now thinks that he is firmly throwing this pitch, this knuckle curve apparently. Curveball. So again, it was a negative pitch. Well, all of a sudden his fastball is not grading out as negatively. This knuckle curve that this is picking up on is now a pretty big positive. The changeup that's always been good, it's not grading out as positive, but I mean, like this is like these are like elite freaking changeup numbers, which again need to strike out righties. But still, we see a jump that's kind of interesting. And right, 2016 last season, all this, by the way, these are all super small sample size, but still interesting. So the next season, first time that 80 pitching machine fastball is now grading out as a positive pitch. Never in his career. Look, his four-seamer is never graded out positive until the season.
That's
but
weird.
It is weird, but is it because
I have his new pitch?
Yeah, look at these pitches. Like look how high that these are like in tandem with each other. So, you know, these are result oriented and stuff like that. So it's not like these are not underlying stats that are revealing to us that they're actually good. No, because these are like ERA in a sense. It's saying like how well has this pitch done. So it's still interesting though, just to follow the change to see like what's changing with the guy. And we'll look at his swinging strike numbers again. We talked about anything over at 10 or over 10 is becoming to be good. Anything at 60% or above 50%, F strike, right? That's pretty impressive. So again, 2015, right? This must have been just like the Royals pitching staff got him, and they're like, okay, we're gonna try some things. But then after that, right, 10%, 13%, super elite. These are not as much with the ERA type numbers, right? These are supposed to be more predictive, even though they are past stats. It's saying, you know, guys have missed this often. And it's slightly more predictive of future success. That's why FIP and XFIP work in those strikeout percentage type numbers, because guys that play, I don't know if you know this, Jack, but the less time, the less times players actually make contact with the ball, the fewer times it goes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those numbers seem to correlate a little bit.
This number does stand out though. Throwing 11% more in the zone, right? 40% is way below average. Way below average. 51% is slightly above average. So kind of in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, look at that
4 straight years of at 40%.
Yeah, he's scared to throw it in the zone, you know, because they're gonna rocket his just 70 mile an hour bucket. But that is kind of interesting because I hadn't seen this before, and in my mind that would correlate with if he's throwing more two-seamers, then maybe he's going to be more comfortable challenging guys in the zone with a slower pitch because it's going to move enough that he's cool. Like he's cool spotting that in the corner or something.
Yeah,
it'll move over. So yeah, we see all that stuff. I'm going to skip around a little bit quicker. I'm going to guarantee you that his strikeout numbers are going to be effing phenomenal for both sides. Look, lefties. Yeah, see, didn't face a lot of lefties last season.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, reverse splits though, right? Which he has that nasty that we've seen. He has that ridiculous change up knuckle curve combo. So it makes sense that he'd probably neutralize righties at a good clip. But still, 20% still pretty good. And look at this walk. Look at these walks, dude.
Yeah, that's
Again, remember, two was bad, right? And again, I'm calling this 2015 year the okay, we're gonna try some stuff there. And again, not a big sample size, but sub 2, sub 2, sub 2, sub 2. So we're not expecting him, right? And if he's gonna throw more in the zone this season, possibly. Which
yeah, that 2015, like you said, definitely makes sense with you know, basically trying to change things up.
Yeah, they got their hands on this guy. Righties, right? Woo! Woo! Yeah, it's like, oh shit, this guy went up real in a hurry. But again, right? People are like, oh, regression, 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 and he's gonna regress to something. You know, look at it, and always had low BABIP, which is also crazy. Even with his numbers were not as good against right-handed hitters, always sub 300. Like this is elite,
Yeah,
almost elite. But he's giving up too many home runs. He's not striking guys out. But all of a sudden, he's striking guys out. And when we went through his pitch mix and all that stuff, it kind of was like, okay, I'll believe you. I'll believe you that you're now an elite pitcher. Because so far, we at least see evidence that something is different, right? It's not a complete coincidence.
Yeah, definitely changing something up. But you know, another nice thing is the White Sox got a loaded righty lineup.
Yeah, that's the interesting stat, and I'm getting tired, so I'm just going to spoil it. White Sox are one of the lowest strikeout teams against left-handed pitching in the league. I think they're like 16%. Maybe I will pull it up later, but it was pretty low.
Yeah, no one's gonna think about that.
But that's the curious, undiscoverable thing that everybody wants to know is a reverse splits pitcher with high strikeout numbers to the reverse hand. How does that match up against a team that smashes? For example, you saw certain somebodies on the internet talking about how big their dick was with their Oakland stacks against Paxton, right? And Paxton is notoriously just a very strong reverse splits pitcher. And it's like, okay, well, when the hell, right? When do those splits don't mean as much as they should, right? When is like a guy who's really, really good against lefties still going to mash a left-handed pitcher? And I think I just figured it out. I'm not going to go into it now, but I think if we stat casted it and if we looked at lefty changeups, we could find guys that are proficient against that pitch. But either way, we're looking at Vargas. We're gonna go lefty first. We'll see that. Holy crap! Like that's some hard ass contact. 44%,
Wow.
66%, 66%. Again, these are extremely low, insanely low sample sizes, but still just interesting to see. Right. So far been a little bit more mitigated. Right, and he added that two-seamer, which is kind of interesting because that's a pitch that maybe the two-seamer breaks in on towards the hand of the pitcher. So a lefty throws a two-seamer, it breaks left, right, which is the equivalent of a righty, I believe, throwing a cutter to get out righties or to get out lefties. So maybe all of a sudden it's like, that's another thing. We're like, okay, that could actually explain maybe, even if the K numbers aren't super high, why they're not hitting it hard. If he's getting that two-seamer, like riding it in real tight, he could stop him. But again, unbelievably low sample size, but still interesting. That's like something that we want to see if it's going to continue.
Yeah, maybe I'll be crazy and throw in a White Sox stack. You never know.
Yeah, and then we look at righties. We're expecting these ones to be good. Again, 2015, right? The effort year, and he's in that kind of that close to that 35, 10%, right? 35% hard contact, 35% fly ball rate, 10% home run to fly ball rate, 10 to 12%. That is kind of okay, maybe he's decent type of thing, as depending on how much guys he strikes out. But we look at the last 2 years, right? He's closer to he had maybe a little bit more fly ball problems, but now he's on actual. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that he's actually thrown more innings against righties this season now than he did in that last season.
Wow.
already. Yeah, already.
Yeah, was he? Yeah, didn't you say something? Something happened though.
Yeah, man, I wish I spent more time looking up, but I can't remember what injury or something he was coming off of. But
yeah,
still, yeah, we're looking at it, it's like, okay, 24%, that's like really freaking low. Right, this 44% with this 0% home, like total fake news up the wazoo. But still, they weren't hitting it that hard. So even if this was normalized, I would say it still wouldn't be that too many home runs because they weren't hitting it that hard.
yeah,
And now they've kind of swapped. So it's kind of like, right, they're not hitting in the air as much, but they're still hitting it harder. And again, this I'd be curious to see how much that's related to the two-seamer, because a guy like Carlos Martinez, like that's how they generate a lot of ground balls, is that if you can throw a good two-seamer, people misjudge it. So when they swing it, they don't make good contact and it glances off, it hits the ground. So they could hit the shit out of it, right? But it's like off the bottom of the bat. But again, this is a guy that, right, so far we have explanations. We have explanations for everything.
yeah,
There are
that's
reasons.
huge.
So there is no reason to necessarily, like, he's going to regress, right? 92% left on base percentage, these ungodly numbers, right? 297 BABIP, by the way, is actually high for him for his whole career. Like 297 is the highest. The people are getting on base when they get a hit, get with righties. Actually, so far more than they ever have in his whole career, and we're saying that he only just recently got good. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is actually interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to close it out on we say our favorite stack or stacks of teams, one or two?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys noticed when I pulled up the. We're not going to cover it, but I don't know if you guys noticed when I pulled up the batting leaders. I went to the batting leaders team stats. Right. This is earlier when I was looking at the numbers versus lefties. Right. We went to advanced. We went to advanced. We pull up this WRC plus. That's the weighted runs. Right. Oh no.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, we can't pick them. That's a rule. Can't pick Rockies or Nationals.
Oh, let's stretch the sample size. I'm actually curious. We're gonna throw in last season too, because their team is very close to the same. Pretty close.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Fourth.
Yeah. Oh damn, they're still
Oh,
second.
second.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we're not gonna cover cores, but it is worth noting that on a very large sample, they got a team that can really fuck up a lefty.
Yeah.
Playing a lefty. A guy that I used to really like, and he's not doing well this year.
All right. Well, who is your favorite stack?
Oh, you're making me go first.
I can go first.
Yeah, my favorite stack. Well, I know who you're gonna pick. You're gonna pick D-backs, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. So Diamondbacks. Jules Chaseen has looked a little bit better this season, and honestly, he's always been pretty decent. He can be so good against righties. He can be so good against righties that as long as he's like kind of in a decent park and like things are going his way, right? Like you just won't notice the issue with the lefties. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be facing David Peralta, Jake Lamb, hopefully Chris Herman's in the lineup because I always like him, right? Just the lefties there, and then the righties are guys that can just absolutely rocket the ball. So I feel like I think that'll be a popular stack, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm not positive yet. I always get a better feel kind of, throughout the day. You get more industry news. But where are you going?
Yeah, I think a lot of people stack Reds. I want to do some real digging on Matt Garza because I think
He's
actually
been pitching better, like we were talking pre-show.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. It's confusing what he's doing. I'll look again. You know what, man? I will be stacking the shit out of the Rays just because if Ubaldo goes down early, right? We have and the Rays
Yeah.
offenses look kind of pretty decent. I mean,
Yeah.
you could play all these guys: Lomo, Brad Miller, even Longo, Kiermaier, Dickerson. Even I've been playing Shane Peterson. Kid's been hitting.
Wow.
Lomo's knocking dongs everywhere. So he's maybe too obvious. Pirates against a contact pitching lefty and Brett Anderson, even though it is in PNC Park, guys are always sneaky, man. Mercer,
Yes.
David Freese are always my go-to guys that traditionally hit lefties well. And then I wouldn't mind going on to like a Josh Harrison or even a McCutcheon. Now, I believe with yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but
Yeah.
they're always sneaky. They're always low owned. They actually don't hit. They don't all hit left-handed pitching that well. It really is just Freese and Mercer. Josh Harrison in his career has had some success with lefties. Andrew McCutcheon in his career has had success with lefties, but not automatic.
All right. Well, hey, there you have it then.
Yeah. So
Right.
any one guy, I'm going to call Kevin Kiermaier. He's my guy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any one guy that stands out that you like?
I always like me some Tomas if I'm stacking the Diamondbacks. I feel like he always goes overlooked.
Yeah, he can crush a ball. Well, everybody, I'm just gonna hit you guys all with this outro, and then we're gonna get outro, if you know what I'm saying.
Continuous country.